Allow me to extend a warm welcome to all the viewers on the internet and around the world. It is sunrise on YouTube, morning on Facebook, noon on Twitter, midday on Threads, afternoon on Twitch, sunset on Instagram, and evening on Rumble. I am your host, the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, the Phantom Menace, he who remains, and the master of the deceptive arts. We are broadcasting live directly from the sanctum of solitude and the citadel at the end of time. Good evening, everyone. It's the Ancient One here, the Bachelor Supreme, and I'm back with another heartfelt video. Today, I want to talk about why DNA tests are going to fail you in the end as a bachelor. You'll see the picture on the screen is from an article, one of two articles that I'll read later on. But this one is entitled 30% of Men Are Not the Father. This is a very popular statistic that's been quoted on the internet as some type of evidence of a tremendous success. And I'm going to try to demonstrate to you why this is an absolute abject failure in the bachelor life. And why, if you are putting your faith in a DNA test as your type of salvation, I'm here to tell you that you are making a terrible, terrible mistake. Because what you're going to find, and I'm going to prove today, is that a DNA test is not your salvation. In fact, it is your damnation. So let's start by talking about childbirth, right? Before we get into all the DNA tests. So I was watching a video online, and I had the inclination some time ago to watch a online video on childbirth, right? And I just quickly typed in childbirth, and it popped up childbirth live. So I clicked on it and I watched the video. And I just want to describe to you in my own words what I saw in that video, right? Because I don't think I'll be able to play that video in earnest, right? Because it's very graphic, it's live, and it puts everything right in front of you, right? So what I saw in this video was effectively just mind-blowing, right? So there's this woman who she's not sitting, but she's not lying. She's sort of hunched over on the bed, and you can see she's very heavily pregnant. So from the torso upwards, right, she's fully covered, so you can't see anything from the middle up. But from the middle down, she's fully exposed, right, in this video. Reproductive organs and all legs wide open. And what's happening there is that you can see in her face just excruciating pain, right? She's sweating and crying at the same time, but there's so much water coming down her face, you can't tell what's the tears and which is the sweat, right? There's just so much of it. So you can tell that she's been screaming from the pain, but in this video the pain is so severe that she has stopped screaming and just gone mum. She's just sort of just excluded the world around her and focused all her attention on just managing this tremendous amount of pain, right? And so the camera moves away from her and focuses on the childbirth itself. Now this is just an extraordinary event, right? And just I can only imagine the extent of the pain that this woman was going through, right? So what's happening is that her opening is really not being stretched, it's being torn open, it's being burst open, right? So it is torn, it is bleeding, it is painful, right? And all the while she's being stretched and stretched, so you could tell she's past her limits now, right? And only the tip of the baby's head has come out. Now, when the tip of the baby's head comes out, the first thing that I realized was that this baby has hair, right? So it's not like it's a head of hair, but it's not like fully grown. So it's like short hairs, and you know how sharp short hairs can be, right? Like when your hair is just growing back after you've shaved or after you've cut your hair, right? And starts growing back. So this is what I imagine. So not only is she being torn and stretched wide open, and now she's bleeding, she has this what is like sandpaper like head of hair scratching her inside. So she's now hurt and bleeding from the inside and hurt and bleeding from the outside. So they try to get her to breathe, right? They try to get her to breathe, to focus on her breathing. But it's so painful that she holds her breath and you can see her just tensing up and she just stops breathing and slowly the baby's head is coming out. And as you get to like halfway where the ears are, right, she is now all the way open, right? Now all the way open. And what happens is at the peak of this, the nurse has to then guide the baby's head out. Now, I have to mention that at this stage of the birth, the baby is semi horizontal, right? So semi side to side, which is horizontal. Vertical is up and down, right? So the baby is side to side at this place, at this stage of the birth, and the nurse has to then put her fingers between the woman's head, the baby's head and the woman's opening to guide the ears out. So they have to stretch her even more. And at this point, you could just tell on her face that the pain is so extreme that the rest of her body is just gone numb, right? And so this is all automatic, by the way. So the baby's head is coming out anyway, right? It can't stay in there. She can't push it back in. She can't take this back. There's no stopping this now. So eventually they guide the head out, and as the head comes out, now the baby's neck is stuck around the opening. The opening just snaps back into place, right? Just shrinks and covers itself around the baby's head. Now, at this point, the worst is yet to come, right? Because you have to now deal with the shoulders, which is wider than the head. Now, remember, they're going to have to stretch her out even more and bring out the rest of the baby, the torso and the legs, right? But at this point, the birth stops for like a minute. So there's like a minute of reprieve before it starts again, right? So after a minute or so, it starts again, and now the pain starts all over again. But this time it's wider and larger, right? But but because the baby is horizontally, it can't come out like that. Now they have to then twist the baby. I mean, just imagine. They have to twist the baby sideways and let the one arm come out first because they're not going to pull the shoulders out. So they have to let the one arm come out first and then the other arm come out first and then the rest of the baby can come through. So at the point where they twist the baby, this woman's face went bright red with pain and she passed out. She was out. She was completely out. I saw her head bob to the side and the nurse woke her up in the middle of the excruciating torture that she's just gone through. They wake her up right at the peak of her torture. She is revived. And just then, right? So you see what looks like a limb coming out of the woman's opening, but it's not necessarily that, right? It's the umbilical cord. Part of her stomach is coming out first to make room for the baby's arm. So now she's bleeding, she's bloodied, she's wet, and so her stomach comes out, and as her stomach comes out, this gust of liquid, just this explosion of liquid just shoots everywhere, and she defecates herself in the process, right? So now the baby's arm comes out right after that. Now remember, the baby's being twisted and turned in an awkward angle. So the first arm comes out, and then when the second arm comes out, the rest of the woman's stomach comes right out onto the bed. I saw another one where the woman was in the water. That one was just too extreme, too extreme, right? So now the shoulders are out, and the remaining part of the body is relatively smaller than the shoulders, but still a large chunk of the baby. Half the body is practically still inside the woman. The other half is out, as well as her stomach. There is blood everywhere, right? It is wet everywhere. I can only imagine the smell. The pain on that woman's face, you could tell there was an element where she felt betrayed, you know, where like she wasn't really prepared for this, and nobody actually told her what to expect. I mean, they may have told her that it was bad, but not to this extent. Not to this extent, truly not. So now, automatically the baby's body comes out, right? Now, when the last bit of the baby comes out, the rest of her stomach falls out along onto the bed, right? And the nurse immediately wipes the baby off. Now, this woman just collapses, right? She just collapses. Oh, I forgot to mention. As the body is coming out, right, just after the arms, they had to push this lady's legs all the way back, as far open as she could, to accommodate that, to the point where they may have had to dislocate her hip to accommodate the baby. Just think about that. You've been scraped, you've been burned, you've been bloodied, you've been cut, you've been ripped open. Your your literal stomach, your organs are laying there right in front of you, right? You feel completely betrayed, right? You feel completely betrayed. And now this ordeal seems to be over, and you just collapse from exhaustion, from pain, from dehydration, from a loss of blood, and your bones have been broken. And they put the baby on top of her, and immediately the baby starts to feed on the mother. I mean, just imagine. Just imagine that. And this is the moment. This is the moment right here where you decide to ask for a DNA test. After what I've just described, like it's worse with the water, right? Because in the bed birth in the hospital, right? All her organs and blood and liquid and all that fell onto what was like a towel, right? To I don't know, to absorb it or whatever, you know? In the water birth, the woman was floating in a combination of her own blood, her own urine, her own feces, her own mucus, right? Her baby's mucus, right? She was literally floating in that when she collapsed and laid her head to the side and dropped her arms in defeat. And this is the moment that you decide you're going to ask for a DNA test. I'm really going to explain to you what a massive failure this is. If you're wondering why your baby mama, the infamous baby mama or the mother of your child, then turns and begins to hate you, this is why. This is why. Because in this moment, when you were supposed to stand up, when you were supposed to be the strong one, when you were supposed to carry that weight, you dropped the ball. You messed up. And I tell you every day, you're going to mess this up. You are going to mess this up. And not only did you mess up by getting this woman pregnant, you now have added insult to what is a tremendous amount of pain and suffering. And you added this insult to her, right? I mean, this video was extraordinary. And when I think that this is the moment that you decide to accuse her of infidelity and all kinds of things, to me, this is just one of many reasons why she would decide to hate you. Because the minute you say DNA test, you don't just say you don't trust her, you don't just insult her integrity, you are now saying you don't want nothing to do with this baby, right? And asking for a DNA test is an indication that you didn't want to be a father in the first place. Because if you wanted to be a father, you would have been all in. The DNA test would have been a disappointment if you had to do it and then find out that you're not the father. But now you have insulted her in just the worst way. And then let's say you do the DNA test and it comes back and you are the father. And you are the father after all of this, after adding the insults, then you come out and say you're the father, and now you're all proud. Now you're saying, this is my boy, this is my girl, we did it, babe. We? No, there was no we. There was no we. It was all her, and she did it, and now you are taking credit for the baby after you decided then to insult her for it and deny that baby. Can you see the contradiction here? Can you see the hypocrisy? Can you see how you messed this up when you should have just got a vasectomy? This is why your baby mama hates you. This is why your baby mama hates you, because you blew it. In that moment, you could have said anything. You could have said one of a million things. You could have waited, accepted the baby, then went and did a DNA test in secret, and then came back and handled the situation differently. If you find out it's the baby is truly yours, you say absolutely nothing. You find out the baby isn't yours, you go get a DNA, you go get a vasectomy, I beg your pardon. But no, you blew it, right? You blew it. And before we get into the DNA test, let's just take a step back into time. Let's time travel just for another moment and go back to to the moment of inception, to the moment where you got her pregnant, right? Because there you were, in love and whatnot, huh? After a wonderful date, looking deep in her eyes, right? After you guys went out on an adventure on the town, you were wearing your best suit, right? You had that suit recently steamed, so it was fresh and ready to go. You were smelling good. Your car was washed. Your house was cleaned by a maid this time, just in case, right? You held hands. You took a stroll, right? You took off your jacket even though it was hot, and you covered her up in your divinity, in your protection, demonstrating your masculinity, huh? Your alpha masculinity, moron. You told jokes, my friend. You told jokes. You laughed at her jokes. You charmed her. You seduced her. You manipulated her. You allowed her to manipulate you, right? And both of you were into this. Both of you were into this. You never felt better, right? Then then the wine came. Then one bottle of wine, then another bottle of wine, and then another one, and you kept the wine flowing until she was hanging off your arm and just laughing at everything, just out of the sheer joy that was in her heart. And you were beaming with confidence and pride because you knew you nailed it. You knew you nailed it, right? Then you thought, let me take it to the next level. Let me bring out the illicit substances, right? You had the wine to loosen her up. You're going to get something to tighten up yourself, right? So now it's all good. Now the chemicals are flowing, not to mention the love chemical, which we all know is happening in your brain. It's not a real thing. Love is a chemical that's happening in your brain, right? Now the chemical is flowing. The illicit substances are high. The wine is just flooding the room, right? So what did you do? You suggested, hey, let's get out of here. When we go to my place, I'll show you my great view from my apartment. We can have a nightcap, you said. What the hell is a nightcap? But anyway, you went for the nightcap. You took her to your place, and you drove there even though you knew you should have called an Uber. You broke the law. You were driving under the influence, but you didn't want the Uber driver to ruin your game because you were now slurring your words and his words would have been clear, right? You didn't want her to see you fumbling over the change, not able to count money. You didn't want to embarrass yourself in front of another man, so you decided to take the risk. And thank God you didn't kill anyone on the way home. But you made it. You made it. Laughing and giggling all the way, right? Now you're in your apartment, right? Then you open another bottle of wine, more illicit substances, but this time you take that magic blue pill. You know, the one that keeps you up and steady. The one that's going to make sure you get the job done because now you've had too much wine to maintain yourself. So now you need the pharmaceuticals, right? A whole litany of problems. A whole litany of problems, right? But let's continue. It's a magical night. The stars are out, the moon is bright, and the city is quiet because you're the only two people that's up at night. It's just the two of you. It's your secret rendezvous, right? So you play that mellow music, but not the old school, the modern stuff. You don't want her, you don't want her to lose her attraction. So you play something modern, something cool with a bit of a beat, huh? And a little mellow melody in the background, just to keep the momentum, right? You were on fire, man. You were on form. And you couldn't wait to the next days or the next 3 days to tell your boys about how tight your game is, you know? And next thing you know, you're kissing and caressing and hugging. And then she says, stop. She looks you deep in the eyes, and then she says, I've never really felt like this before. And that just drives you wild. It boosts your confidence, increases your passion. And what do? The same thing you always do. You lose your mind. And you went in, and you two did it. You did it on the couch, on the bed, on the floor, on the toilet, on the table. You did it in the kitchen, in the lounge, in the bedroom, in the bathroom, in the shower. You did it all night long, and then you did it again in the morning. And after she left, you couldn't wait to see her again so you could do it again. And I mean, you did it and you did it, right? Then after a few times, the moment comes, right? The moment comes where every woman wants to know, hey, what's this all about? What are we doing here? I mean, and she'll ask you what's going on, you know? She'll even say, hey, what if I get pregnant? What if I get pregnant? And you'll say, nah, it's okay, I trust you. You said it. Yeah, it's okay. I trust you. And you reassured her that everything will be okay between the two of you, right? But that wasn't enough for her. She wanted more. And you knew she wanted more, so you escalated and you told her, I love you and I care for you. And she was gullible enough to believe you. And in that moment, you believed it yourself. You didn't just say it, you believed it. And then you did it again. But this time she was ovulating. This time you didn't know what to do. You couldn't control your hormones. You couldn't control your momentum. It was just time to go. And you were willing to say and do anything to get there. And you did. And that's when you got her pregnant. That's when you got her pregnant. And all the while you were playing the fatherly role, all the while you were acting supportive, all the while you were the man, right? And then after that tremendous experience, that's when you decide to ask for a DNA test. That's the moment, right? The minute she went through hell and torture, that's when you said, hey, let's stop. Hey, I want some more clarity. Hey, I'm not sure I trust you 100%. That was a terrible mistake. And this article is going to demonstrate that in just the most meaningful way, right? But before we do that, we're going to take a moment to see what exactly is a DNA test. So the word DNA, and you'll forgive my pronunciation, it means deoxyribonucleic acid, right? Deoxyribonucleic acid. Yeah, that's a mouthful. So it says here that a DNA test, also known as genetic testing, analyzes an individual's DNA to identify variations in genes, chromosomes, or DNA itself. These tests can reveal a person's genetic makeup and provide information about their predisposition to certain diseases, carrier status for genetic conditions, or even determine biological relationships like paternity. This is where we are. Here are some more detailed background. The purpose. DNA tests are used for a variety of reasons, including diagnosing genetic conditions, identifying specific gene mutations associated with diseases, assessing disease risks, determining the likelihood of developing certain conditions based on genetic predispositions. I beg your pardon. Carrier testing, identifying if someone carries a gene mutation that could pass on to their children. And then we have paternity testing determining the biological father of a child. Next is how it works. It says here DNA is extracted from a biological sample, blood, saliva, etc., and analyzed for specific genetic markers. The accuracy, paternity DNA tests, for example, are highly accurate with probabilities of paternity often reaching 99.9% recurring or higher when the biological mother is also tested according to DNA testing clinics. And finally, the types of DNA tests. There are different types of DNA tests, including a home test and legal tests. Legal tests are required for court proceedings or official purposes. All right. The part that I want us to focus on is the accuracy of these DNA tests, right? So what we're talking about is pretty much 100% accuracy. They cannot miss, right? And this is really why these tests are a failure for bachelors, right? What we're going to do is then look at this article that that I had on the feature on the screen earlier on, where 30% of men are not the father. Now, just to address this 30% issue, right? If 75%, 70 to 75% of marriages fail, right, in a 10-year period, and this is considered a catastrophe. The same has to be considered true if 70% of the men that take DNA tests are the father, right? This is really the problem. 70% of you are going to get this absolutely wrong. You're going to say you're not the father, and you're going to find out that you are. So just keep that in mind as we read this article. Remember what the woman went through. Remember what was described as the woman's suffering. And then remember that you insulted her by demanding this DNA test just for you to come out on the other side and be completely wrong. At the very least, you are 70% wrong. 7 out of 10 of you messed this up. And you're wondering why you are in just turmoil with you and your mother's child. If you're wondering why every time you come pick up the child for that custody exchange, she wants to call the cops and have you arrested, it is because you did this. This particular thing is the reason why your life is miserable. You messed up and you got it so wrong. And you got it so wrong. And the idea that these men are here on the internet telling you that 30% of the men are not the father, I beg your pardon, not the father, got a slip of the tongue there, and then you run with this. 7 out of 10 of you are completely wrong. This is not the hill to die on. This is not the flag of victory that you were waving. This is an indication of incompetence. If you got 70% of the questions in an exam wrong, you would be put in a special class to help you come up to speed. We are talking about like slow-minded people. How could you take a 30% number and run with it? That's absurd. That's absurd. This is why your lives are falling apart. This is why your lives are falling apart, right? But let's get into this article and take this absurdity to its extreme. So here's the title once again. 30% of men not the father. Ridiculous statistic, but let's have a look at it. This is by Home Media and it was published in 2010. There is no author given or listed or mentioned, so no one to give credit there to, but let's jump into it. So I'm going to have to break this apart into several parts just so I can get it to fit on the screen sufficiently and it can be read with the same confidence that I'll be reading it right now. So it says, paternity test stats show a dramatic rise in the number of individuals seeking DNA paternity tests, the issue that I'm bringing up now. When they say dramatic rise, they're talking about you, right? Leading yourself to the slaughter. This new trend, along with the increased attention on paternity provided by celebrity scandals, stop following celebrities, those people don't know what they're doing, leads to the question, how many people really need a DNA paternity test? 30% of men, not the father. A quick online search gives frighteningly alarming figures. Many articles claim that as many as 30%, as few as 30% of men are unknowingly raising another man's child. This would mean that out of a class of 60 students, 20 of them are growing up calling the wrong man dad. To be fair, you had intimate relations with this woman. The fact that you don't know your own status is troubling enough. And the fact that you've gone and now raised another man's child only to have doubt later when you should have known before, this is why I preach the vasectomy. Right? So there is no doubt. There is no chance. So you took the chance, and not only did you blind yourself by not protecting yourself, you went ahead and trusted a counterpart that you shouldn't have. But in truth, she probably didn't know either, right? So now both of you don't know who the parent of the child is. And, you know, if 30% are the ones that are not the father and 70% are the father, it means 100% of you didn't know going in, right? So these statistics don't indicate success. They indicate abject failure. They indicate that you don't know what you're doing. You messed up going in. And then you accused the wrong person by a 70% chance, the wrong person of doing the wrong thing, when in fact you are the problem. You are the problem. So the bottom section of this page says, where did this 30% figure come from? It reads, this is an often misunderstood statistic provided by some paternity test labs regarding the percentage paternity tests with a not the father result. Most paternity test labs report that about 1/3 of their paternity tests have a negative result. Of all the possible fathers who take a paternity test, about 32% are not the biological father. But remember, this is 1/3 of men who have a reason to take a paternity test, not 1/3 of all men. This is a huge difference. So he makes that bottom statement in what is meant to be a threatening way, to imply that there could be more out there, when in fact there aren't, right? There aren't. The truth is you have got it wrong. And I'm telling you that truth right now, all right? I think this article goes on to bear this out, but I want you to just keep in mind that this number is not a success, right? And what they were looking for was not paternity, but they were looking for diseases and illnesses. and then stumbled upon paternity, right? So those men that are going out looking specifically for paternity are actually much, much lower, right? For good reason, for very, very good reason. You're just going to go in there and embarrass yourself. In the next part, it says, what is the real non-paternity rate? It says here, to determine a true non-paternity rate, scientists usually turn to various studies of children and genetic disorders. In these studies, a large number of children are screened for genetic disorders like Tay-Sachs disease, forgive my pronunciation of that, or cystic fibrosis, in which the child must inherit a copy of defective gene from both parents to show the disease. In a June 2010 article in the LA Times, biology professor Marlene Zak says, when large numbers of family are surveyed for research, a certain proportion of fathers turn out not to have the gene that their purported child inherited, thus yielding the non-paternity figures of 1% to 3%. Just listen to that. Just listen to that. That 30% statistic that people are throwing out there as the ultimate actually bears out to be about 1 to about say 4%. That tells you that in monogamous relationships, even if infidelity does happen, not very often will that infidelity result in a child. But let's take these statistics together, right? You have a rate of 99% or 96%, between 96 and 99%, which is an A plus rate, where the counterpart, the mother, the woman, is 100% right? Well, not 100%. So she's 96% right. She's practically 100% right most of the time, right? And in the other statistic, we have a 7 out of 10. So even if we take the average of that, you're still looking at an 85% chance that you are the father. That is an astronomical failure. I would not be asking for a DNA test under any circumstances. If you have doubts, you need to get that DNA test done in secret. Better yet, just get a vasectomy so you don't get into these problems to begin with. But this indicates very clearly that the chances that you're going to get it wrong is somewhere between 96 and 99%. You are going to mess this up, and it is going to destroy your life. The article continues. Higher numbers, particularly the often cited 10%, seem to come from a more biased sample. Biased is the operative word there, or more likely simply turned out to be an urban legend akin to cell phones being able to pop popcorn. This is how they are describing your delusion. An urban legend akin to cell phones being able to pop popcorn. Just imagine that. This is how wrong you are. It is an epic delusion. It is completely wrong for you to go ask for a DNA test. Not after what that woman has suffered through, and not the fact that you're going to get it completely wrong and then claim credit for the child afterwards, and then complain why the mother wants revenge. Right? It was the author Hargreaves who once was famously quoted for saying, now listen to these words very carefully. It says, heaven hath no rage like love to hatred turned, no hell of fury like a woman scorned. And when she makes you suffer, this is her love. This is the rage of her love turning into hatred and the vitriol of a woman who has been scorned. And you cannot stand there and say you didn't see this coming and you didn't know and you don't know why she's doing what she's doing. Because just by your own admission, 7 out of 10 of you, 70% of you got this completely wrong. And then you try to abscond from your responsibility. So now you just showed that not only is your judgment off, not only is your timing off, now you want to abscond from responsibility and then turn around and take credit for it. Like in the same day when 2 hours ago you were trying to deny this baby and insult this woman. Brother, you messed this up. Get a vasectomy. Get a vasectomy before you ruin your life. So I'm going to have to raise this just a little bit to get this bottom part to fit into the screen. But it reads, with all the media attention on DNA paternity testing and celebrity paternity tests, non-paternity test rates are easily sensationalized. This is what I've been saying all along. Like your number of 30%, even if it was right, which I don't think it is, I think you're completely off, but even if it was right, you're still 7 out of 10 wrong. And for you to tell you that 30% is a level of success is just an indication of the delusion that you have to come out and celebrate this tremendous, tremendous failure when there is evidence that 1 to 3% of you are not the father in a monogamous relationship, a maximum of 10%. But this is only when they are looking for diseases. When they search for paternity itself, it's just, one, it's either maybe just not enough men coming out, but those of men that do come out are all tragically disappointed, right? It's never gonna bear out what you think it is, right? And the final statement, however, it seems that we as a society are truly more monogamous than daytime talk shows might make it appear. So this is why I, as the Bachelor Supreme, am not coming out attacking marriages, even though I detest the institution of marriage. I find that in comparison to combining DNA with somebody, in comparison to having a child with someone, the consequences of that for a bachelor are so much more severe than getting married, right? There's a way out of marriage. You cannot divorce your kids. Your kids are with you forever. And if you believe that a DNA test is your salvation, I'm here to tell you that you are sorely mistaken. The only way out of this, the only way is to not play the game. And if you do play it, to play it at an advantage. And I'm telling you, money is not your advantage. Education is not your advantage, right? Fame and success is not going to be your advantage. Those are the things that are going to draw their counterpart to you and induce them to get inseminated, right? And you're going to be telling them the things that they want to hear in order to get the things that you want from them. And I'm telling you, you're going to mess this up. You're going to have a moment of doubt at the absolute worst moment. I mean, as she's giving birth, there you're saying you want a DNA test. But imagine the same situation with a vasectomite. Imagine in the moment of that suffering, then you announce, I had a vasectomy. That's a completely different effect. It's a completely different effect. Now, you're the guy that's there supporting her when you shouldn't be, when you needn't be, right? Whereas the baby daddy, the actual father, he has no idea that he's about to get it. And when she goes through this suffering and realizes that the man she loves or the man to whom she is now biologically tied to for life, the father of the child, is nowhere to be found. And, he's probably out there making another baby. When she discovers this truth, she's going to focus all of her hatred and attention to that man because it's right. But for you, you are out of this picture. You're a vasectomite. This isn't really your problem. You shouldn't even be in the delivery room to begin with. Right? You should have announced it as soon as she said, I'm pregnant. You just tell her I got a vasectomy, and that's the end of it. But if you believe that DNA tests, if you honestly believe that DNA tests are going to help you in this romance war, I'm here to tell you this is another dead end. You have headed nowhere. And all you've done is create a new enemy and then given that enemy all the ammunition they need to destroy your life. And for the next 20 years, every single day, she'll be filing motion after motion after motion. I've seen a woman file a motion to reclaim 50 cents from her baby daddy. Just to file a counter motion would have cost him like $100. But she went in and she filed it anyway, and the judge heard that motion. And then she got him to pay her lawyer bills. So now you got to pay her bills, your bills, and the 50 cents? Terrible, man. And you did it to yourself. This is really the message that I want to give to men. You're doing this to yourself. You could, if you have medical insurance right now, you could have a vasectomy as early as next week, covered by your medical insurance company. And if you don't, I'm sure if you stop clubbing, you stop going out, and you stop dating, I'm sure you can pull that money together. I'm sure you can put together $1,500 for a professional medical procedure that will save you millions. Millions guaranteed. The price of raising a child is 1.8 million. There's $1 million right there. I guarantee you $1 million just by getting this vasectomy. This is what an investment means. You put in a little bit so you can get a lot out. You put in that $1,500, you get that vasectomy, whatever the currency is in your country, you get that vasectomy, you use your medical insurance, and for the rest of your life, you're cashing in. But if you don't, and she gets pregnant, you're finished. This is the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme. Thank you for your attention. I really appreciate it. Have a nice day.